All right, so today we're not going to look at history from the top down, from a king's throne or a general's tent. Nope. We're going to dive into the story of a single family, the Montoyas, whose lives were forged right in the middle of one of the biggest, most world-changing events ever, the Spanish colonization of the Americas. And that really gets us to the big question we're tackling here. How do you find the real, human story that's buried deep inside those massive, official histories of empires and conquests? We're going to explore that tension, that space between the story that gets written down and the lives that were actually lived. So let's break this down. On one side, you've got the official story, right? It's all about empires, big battles, and powerful kings. It's a story of conquest, written by the people who won. But if you look closer, in the margins of old court documents and military lists, a totally different story starts to appear. It's not about conquest at all. It's a story of creation, the story of one family just trying to survive, and in doing so, actually building a whole new world. Okay, let's meet the people at the heart of our story. We're starting with two key individuals whose descendants, believe it or not, now number in the thousands. They are, in a very real sense, a foundational family of New Mexico, Bartolome de Montoya and Maria de Zamora. So first up, we have Bartolome de Montoya. The records tell us he was born in a town called Cantillana in Spain. He was a man who decided to cross an entire ocean to try and make a life in what was, for him, a completely alien world. And then we have his wife, Maria de Zamora. And this is where the story gets really fascinating. We know where she was from because of her own testimony given during an Inquisition investigation of all things. And she places her birth in a very, very specific part of Mexico City. See, the Barrio de San Sebastián wasn't just any old neighborhood. It was a direct link to the heart of the former Aztec Empire. It was built right on top of an older district of the great city of Tenochtitlan. I mean, it's totally possible that her great-grandparents were living right there when Hernán Cortés and his men first marched into the city. So, in the year 1600, this couple, the Spanish immigrant and the indigenous woman, they signed up to join a group of settlers heading north to what we now call New Mexico. And their entire household is captured, frozen in time in a single incredible document. And this muster roll, wow, it's so much more than just a list of names. It's a snapshot of a new society being formed right before our eyes. You've got the head of the family from Spain, his wife from the heart of Mexico City, their kids, and, get this, an infant son named Jose, who the records tell us was actually born on the difficult journey north. But here's the thing, a document like this, as amazing as it is, exists inside a much bigger historical record. That is, well, it's messy. And to really get what their world was like, we have to ask a really critical question. Can we actually trust the official histories that were being written at the time? And the crucial point is that a lot of what we have from the conquistadors, guys like Cortés, they weren't trying to write objective history. As one analysis points out, these were basically legal arguments. They were written by investors and lawyers to justify what they were doing and to make their conquest seem heroic and necessary to the folks back in Spain. This all ties into an idea historians call the Black Legend. Now, usually that term refers to how Spain's rivals like England use stories of Spanish cruelty as propaganda. But what's so wild is that Spain created its own Black Legend. They painted the Aztecs as these savage monsters to make their own conquest look like a moral crusade. The big takeaway here? History is almost always a political tool. So how did this massive clash between official power and just regular people's lives actually play out on the ground? Well, for the Montoya family, it absolutely exploded into the open in 1607 when Maria de Zamora faced a truly terrifying accusation. She was accused of witchcraft. Now, this wasn't just a personal crisis. It was a perfect storm, a small-scale version of the huge cultural and spiritual battles happening all over the Americas, especially for an indigenous woman trying to find her way in a new Spanish world. And the specific charge was for hechicería. Now, the historical record makes a really key distinction here. This wasn't the European idea of brujería, making a pact with the devil. No, this was about a kind of folk practice, a mix of European and native traditions using herbs and potions. And it was often women helping other women with things like health problems or relationship troubles. Thankfully for Maria, the local friars who investigated looked into it and found there just wasn't enough evidence. The case was dropped. But the very fact that it happened at all, it just shows you the kind of danger and suspicion she had to live with, right at the crossroads of these two worlds. But the Montoya-Zamora family did so much more than just survive accusations and hardship. They put down deep, deep roots, and they became absolutely foundational to the new society that was being built in New Mexico. You can really see their influence when you look at the next generation. Their kids married into other important colonial families. Their daughter, Petronila, became the matriarch of the powerful Lucero de Godoy family. And their son, Diego, became an encomendero, which was a royal grant that gave him control over land and native labor. I mean, this was a title of real power and status, and he passed it on to his son. From that one single couple who made that dangerous journey north back in 1600, thousands and thousands of people today in New Mexico and far beyond can trace their family line right back to them. They truly became a cornerstone of the region's history. So why does this one family's story matter so much? Because it's a powerful counter-narrative. It pushes back against that simple black and white story of conquerors and the conquered. Their story isn't just about conquest. It's about survival, it's about blending cultures, and it's about creating something entirely new. And that's a powerful reminder that history is always up for debate. The official story is almost never the whole story. The quieter truths, the real truths, are so often found in the lives of ordinary people, like Bartolome and Maria, people who managed to live through extraordinary times. Which leaves us with one final thought. If the story of just one family, pulled from some dusty old archives, can change how we see the history of an entire empire, well, just how many other stories like theirs are still out there, waiting in the margins, ready to be told?